Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, Fantasy Champs? We're back together.
What's good?
On the road again. Actually, Rick is in town now. Well, not in my town.
Yeah.
But he's
I'm in a town.
He's a state away at this point. Not
for one day. Literally tomorrow I'm leaving, so.
Unfreaking believable. Really hot time for baseball scout. I guess.
It is, bro.
Not
it's trade deadline season, you know.
Seriously. But anyway, welcome into the show. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. We are here to talk about fantasy football and not baseball, even though my baseball team, Boston Red Sox, are just, I don't know. But we got some fun stuff to talk about this week. We are switching to 3 episodes this week, so it should be a wild time as we prepare. It is officially draft month.
Oh, yeah.
August 2nd is when we're recording this. Hopefully it goes out later this week.
Yeah.
So it is draft month. It's time to start prepping. We don't draft the home league until September. So for us, it's not draft month. But for a lot of people, it is draft month. Training camps are here. Preseason starts on Thursday. So it should be a very interesting time. Today we got bold predictions, though. We are going to talk about some of our hottest takes and predictions for the season. And at the end of the year, we always go back to this episode and say, what the frig did we actually predict? Did we get it right? Did we not get it right? I don't know.
Yeah.
So we will discuss that. Do you have any thoughts, Rick?
No, I'll say historically, though, you have probably done better than I have on this show.
Okay. All right. I don't know how we did last year. I can see if I can find those show notes while
I know it was probably a lot of pro Broncos for me. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well,
which, have I learned from my mistakes?
No, you have not.
No, I have not.
But anyway, before we jump into that, check out our website. Actually, don't do that because it's in construction. You're going to get a coming soon sign. So that is coming soon. Promise.
Okay.
But anyway, check our website when it's live. And I'll tell you when it's live. But anyway, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, and any other podcasting platforms, please leave a review and share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like and comment down below any questions you may have. So, without further ado, let's jump into bold predictions. Get the people their content. Get out of here. It is draft month, so it's busy. We gotta talk about this crap and move forward.
Okay.
So I will look for the bold predictions from last year just to see what it is. But Rick, why don't you kick it off and give me your first bold prediction of the show?
You know, I gotta lead us in from where we left off last year.
You're not leading us into anything. You're leading us straight to the Denver Broncos' grave.
Like I said, we're learning from our mistakes last year by repeating them. And my first
if you take enough shots, like me saying the Derrick Henry cliff is coming, like you take enough shots at that, it's going to happen eventually.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So that's where I'm at. So my first bold prediction, and it's not even super, I feel like it's a little tame, but it's a little bold. It's spicy on the spicy meter. That's Jerry Jeudy will finish as a top 15 wide receiver. I did not go into the offseason with this take at all. I did not plan on having this hot take whatsoever. But here we are. After I've done my projections on teams, after I've kind of seen how the offseason plays out, we're sitting here in August. Mm-hmm. And to me, I think the path for him being a top 15 receiver is very, very possible. First of all, we all know about Sean Payton. Replacing Nathaniel Hackett is a major, major upgrade.
Yep.
Outside of Bill O'Brien is probably the biggest coaching upgrade this year, if not bigger than that. So you expect not only the offense to be better, but Russell Wilson to be better and be more efficient. Mm-hmm. And last year, Jeudy was still pretty good, even with the offense being bad. In points per game, I believe he was a top 20 wide receiver last year, or top 25. So he was in that range. He still had 6 touchdowns. He almost had 1,000 yards, 67 catches, and he missed some time as well. So he still had a pretty good season last year with that offense being awful. Nathaniel Hackett there. So you get Sean Payton, you get potentially an upgraded Russell Wilson. That alone should line up Russell or Jerry Jeudy for having a big season.
Yeah.
Now you even take in some of the depth guys. Tim Patrick, who tore his ACL last year, kind of a tough story. I tweeted it out that I feel bad for him, but coming back off the torn ACL, he tears his Achilles this year. So he's out of the picture. KJ Hamler has been released, although he'll probably come back at some point during the season. He has heart issues. So they're out with their third and fourth receiver. So it's going to be another.
Mims.
Yeah, well, Marvin Mims. It's Marvin Mims' season as the third guy, but it's also, I think, going to be heavily Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton again. And between those two guys, we learned last year that Jeudy was the better player. So if the offense is better and those guys are getting a lot of targets again, it all lines up for Jerry Jeudy having a big season.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, last year he had 927 yards and 6 touchdowns, paced out with the missed games that he had to 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns. Much better catch rate than he had in years previous. So there's definitely some positive things for Jerry Jeudy. I'm drafting him in drafts. I don't necessarily disagree with your bold take.
It's not even like too bold. I only went top 15.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, last year's bold predictions really quickly. Saquon Barkley for me. Saquon Barkley would underperform ADP. That was no. Travis Etienne ends as a top 10 running back.
You were close.
Yeah. Did he not finish as a top 10 running back?
I don't think he did. I think he was right outside the top 10.
And then Jimmy G ends up on the Seattle Seahawks, which did not happen.
But that's a bold take.
That was out there.
Well, he ended up on a different team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was in this offseason, so does it count for 2022?
No.
Yours were Darnell Mooney, top 15 wide receiver.
Oh, gosh.
Cam Akers will finish in the top 12.
No.
And then Russell Wilson will be a top 5 quarterback.
I went 0 for 3 last year.
L's all over the yard.
Gosh, that's tough.
All right, so yeah, I don't. Jerry Jeudy is not even like super hot for top 15, but there is a world.
I'll say top 12. Should I change it to top 12?
No, you're fine.
To make it spicy. Okay.
Mid-show, he changes his prediction. But no, I think there's a large range of outcomes for Jerry Jeudy, and I hope last year is not what we get in terms of just what Jerry Jeudy is, which is a good wide receiver in the NFL, like a Julian Edelman type statistical season, year in and year out, but not top 5, 6, 7 wide receiver, which is what I think a lot of people anticipated. So
he was wide receiver 22 last year.
Yeah, like if he finishes in that range, he's always like 18 to 20. He's always going to be good for fantasy football, but we want to see him jump into that top 10 conversation and be one of the guys. So we'll see if that happens, but top 15, I like it. For me, my first one is Kyle Pitts, top 3. There's no reason why this should be the case.
Oh, boy.
Considering how many times we've swung and missed on Kyle Pitts, but it's year 3. And statistically, tight ends heading into year 3, 2, 3, and 4, that's when they usually take a step forward and break out. And, everyone kind of knows what Kyle Pitts did in his rookie year. And Rick has brought this up before because everyone was like, oh, this guy's going to break the trend. He's the highest drafted tight end ever and, all kinds of stuff. And in his rookie year, he had 110 targets, 68 catches, 1,000 yards, and he only caught 1 touchdown. And so he had a historical year for a rookie at the tight end position, but he didn't catch any touchdowns, so it didn't really have a massive positive reflection for him in fantasy football. And then last year in 10 games, he was not good. They went through Marcus Mariota and a little bit of Desmond Ridder, and then he got hurt. Paced out, he was going for 100 targets, 48 catches, 605 yards, so 47% completion percentage, 12 yards per reception. Everything went down for him. So I would imagine that we're going to get a positive regression in the catch percentage. We're going to get a positive regression in the yardage and the efficiency, and he'll probably, I projected him right around, I want to say 105 targets. Yeah, that's it. 105 targets. I only have him at 3 touchdowns, and the efficiency isn't fantastic in terms of the yards per reception. But, I think there's a chance that if things go positively for Kyle Pitts and he has a breakout season, like, he can finish in the top 3, and he will finish in the top 3. There are not a lot of tight ends right now. Like, there's a lot of muddle right now with the tight end position. Like, everyone anticipates Mark Andrews being up there again, but he dealt with injuries last year. And the guys after him are kind of like just a conglomerate of tight ends that could finish in the top 3, but might not. Kyle Pitts is one of those guys, but I think he can and will. And I think the expectation for his career was that he would be top 2, 3, maybe number 1 tight end in fantasy football. I think now he can do that. So I think there's some positives there. Rick went, whoa, and then he asked me what my projection was, and it wasn't what he thought it was, and he was like kind of surprised. There was conflicting information from my brain.
Right. Well, this is my only, and I like Pitts. It's interesting because I feel like I like Kyle Pitts more than you do, which is why I'm a little confused on why you have this bold prediction.
Yeah.
But I do agree with what you're saying. I think Pitts, first of all, we know about his talent level, and then being the highest tight end ever and all that stuff. He did have a monster rookie season if you take away the touchdown numbers, because the Falcons are the Falcons.
Yeah.
1,000 yards as a rookie tight end is ridiculous. So he had monster season. We know the type of player he is. Mm-hmm. And going into year 3 should be like a breakout season for him as well. My only problem is Desmond Ridder.
Of course, I agree.
That's going to be the kind of
a lot of the Falcons' assets, but if things work out for Ridder, the touchdowns will be there for.
And Arthur Smith. I don't love Arthur Smith as a head coach.
He's a bonehead. That guy's an idiot. All right, what's your second bold prediction?
My second bold prediction is we're going to bite some kneecaps. We're going to have Lions on the sidelines.
Yes!
We're going to cry because we love the game of football.
Yes.
And it's Jahmyr Gibbs will also finish.
If you love football, there's no way you cannot root for the Lions and Dan Campbell.
Correct.
Unless you are an NFC East fan. Is that or NFC
I don't know
North fan?
If you guys saw this, but Dan Campbell did try to get a Lion on the field for this NFL season that's coming up, and the NFL told him no. Anyway, my bold prediction.
Up his butt.
Yes, he does. Although that's probably breaks every safety hazard in existence.
That's all right.
Anyway,
Dan Campbell doesn't care about safety.
Yeah, but he cares about football. Jahmyr Gibbs will finish as a top 10 running back this year in fantasy football. That's my hot take. That's my bold prediction. And you might be thinking that's kind of crazy. He's a rookie running back, and they have David Montgomery. They just signed him. True. Here's the problem. For one, Gibbs is a receiving running back. We know receiving running backs are king in PPR. Number 2, the Lions wanted to draft him. I don't know if you've seen this clip. They wanted to draft him 6th overall because they originally had the 6th overall pick. But they traded back, and they didn't want to trade back originally because they were scared that they were going to lose out on Gibbs. So they traded back up to get Gibbs. That was the inside, like the draft room. So that's how crazy they are.
Yeah.
About Gibbs. All right. So they think this dude is like Saquon Barkley, right? They think he's the best running back ever. He's their next Barry Sanders, whatever. Mm-hmm. He's a pass catching back. His player comparison is Alvin Kamara, which we've seen Kamara in years past not even get 200 carries and finish as a top 5 running back because of his receiving upside. I think that's what Gibbs does this year. They're definitely going to utilize him. Is he going to get 250 carries? Probably not.
Yeah.
But he's going to get a lot of targets, especially early on. Jameson Williams is suspended. Outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's not a ton of targets there to go around. I could see Gibbs being used a lot in the passing game early on and kind of work his way as the season goes on to getting utilized more and more and more. And I also think that although Montgomery might get some goal line carries, that Gibbs has an opportunity to get a lot of touchdowns because the Lions offense is not that bad. It has one of the best. They have one of the best offensive lines in the league. Monroe St. Brown. When Jameson Williams comes back, they got Jameson Williams. There will be opportunities there for yards and touchdowns for Gibbs. It's not like he's playing on. We talked about this team, but like the Buccaneers, right? Where we're kind of scared of some Bucs players because they're probably not going to be good this year. I don't think it's like that with the Lions, which historically has been a worrisome with that team. So he's playing in a decent offense, a good offense. He's a top 10 pick at the running back position, which was he top 12 at the running back position?
I don't know. He might actually be lower than that.
I'm talking about in the real NFL draft. He was a top 12 pick.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Something like that. Between 12 and 14. I thought you were talking
historically speaking, if you look at the last like 10 years and you take the running backs who were drafted in the top 10, I think pretty much all of them hit.
There might have only been
there was like one guy. There was one guy that didn't have a good career at all. But most of the guys hit. The hit rate is very high. Just off the top of my head, I know Saquon was up there. Christian McCaffrey was up there. Zeke Elliott was up there. Leonard Fournette was up there. We're all top 10 picks. So those are some really high quality names, and all the hype is on Bijan, but Gibbs is up there too.
All right, fair enough. I do like Gibbs. Just knowing like first round running backs in general, typically, they're drafted and they're instantly used, and they usually have instant success in fantasy football. They're the one position that, if you're a rookie, you typically do have success with. So, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs definitely. I mean, you should be drafting him regardless of whether he finishes a top 12 guy or top 15. Because I think he's going to be fantastic. So, anyway, my next one. This one's hot. This is the hottest one of the show.
This is the hottest one of the show.
Why freaking not Nick Chubb? This is just me taking him at his ceiling. Of what I think he can do this year. But I think he's going to finish as the RB1, number one, the best running back in fantasy football this year.
Woo!
Yeah, it's
hot in here.
That's a hot take. It's also a high unlikeliness of hitting. I probably could have said like top 2 and been giving myself a wider net. But no,
top 3 would be a hot
so
take
I was doing my projections on Nick Chubb, and I already felt good about him because Kareem Hunt is gone, and I don't like. It doesn't sound like they're even going to entertain bringing him back. There's several running backs like Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, Leonard Fournette. There's other guys available, and the Browns have said no, we're not going to sign a guy. Now this could change. Once I release the show, it'll probably change, and that's how things work with me. But with Kareem Hunt out of the question, that leaves a lot of running back vacated targets. Now, I do think that those targets are probably going to go to the wide receiver position in some way. They acquired Elijah Moore, so some of those vacated targets might shift to the wide receiver position. But I still think Chubb, who has proven can be a good pass-catching running back, he just hasn't had the opportunity because Hunt is here, is now going to get that work. So I'm doing my projections, and I'm like, okay, who's the backup running back for the Cleveland Browns? Jerome Ford and Demetric Felton. Jerome Ford last year had 12 carries for 9 yards.
Yeah.
So he sucks. And I think he's going to get an opportunity. He's going to be better than that this year. But Nick Chubb is going to get his normal 280 to 300 carry workload. But on top of that, I think he could probably hit 40 to 50 receptions with that. And there is a high ceiling for Nick Chubb because if he gets even more receiving work than that, because in previous seasons, him and Kareem Hunt were around 60 catches together, something like that. So if he does that by himself next year, which I don't think is like fully likely, but if he does that next year on top of the rushing work that he gets, he might have a Derrick Henry workload, like almost 400 touches. And if that does happen, there's no reason why Nick Chubb can't be the RB1 in fantasy football. Right now, I have him projected at 284 fantasy points, which isn't the RB1 that you would think.
No, but that's high.
It's very high. So I do think that there is a way for him to become an RB1, and right now he is going off the freaking boards as the 6th, 7th running back. And I think that he has a very, very good shot of finishing as at minimum like a top 5 running back and finishing in the top 3. But I think that he also has a shot at RB1 status and number 1 running back in fantasy football this year because the vacated opportunities are there for him to take. So, and there's no one else in that backfield. So I'm going to stick with that and roll with it. Rick, what's your third bold prediction?
That was a good one. I do love me some Nick Chubb. I did see a report today that they might bring in Zeke for a workout. So
frick out of here, dude.
Ruin your bold takes. This is kind of an interesting one, but it's the way I feel about the quarterback market this year in fantasy, and that is that all the top 8 quarterbacks right now being drafted as a top 8 will finish in the top 8 in points per game. And I was going to just do in general, but injuries might happen. So that will probably change the actual rankings and we'll get someone random in the top 8. But I'll say it in points per game because looking at the landscape of the quarterback market in fantasy football, I really think there's a reasonable gap between the top 8 guys and everybody else. If you can get one of those top 8 guys, I think it does change. I think after you get past that, it's kind of just a bunch of guys. It's you get to the Kirk Cousins of the world, the Tuas of the world, the Daniel Jones of the world, even like the Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, who I don't mind that 9-10 for me. I don't love. And you look at those top 8 guys like Trevor Lawrence in line for a potential big season. He was great. He was really solid last year, and you're bringing in Calvin Ridley, right? Yeah. Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow. Justin Fields, it was a top 5 quarterback last year, and he's getting DJ Moore, right? With an improved offensive line. So that's trending up. Justin Herbert, who last year is probably the outliner for him. He was not a top 8 quarterback, but the year before that, he was the QB2. And last year, he only threw like 20-something touchdowns. So if you just get the positive regression back, he's going to be a top 5. Most likely top 5, top 6 fantasy quarterback. Then you got Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. Tell me which one of those guys has a bad season. Maybe Justin Herbert again, based on what he did last year. Maybe Trevor Lawrence doesn't take a jump.
Yeah.
Maybe Justin Fields continues to kind of struggle at times as a passer and, gets benched or something. I don't know. But with his rushing, it's hard to imagine that he doesn't finish top 8. Mm-hmm. So it's really hard for me to see any one of these guys struggle next year. I think the top 8 of quarterbacks is clearly the top 8 of quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I like it. I mean, obviously, we're assuming injury is out of the question here.
That's why I did points per game.
Yeah. Okay, that's smart. I like that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the quarterback position has been a barren landscape after the top 8, and 8 quarterbacks are going in like the first 5-6 rounds. So, like, there's going to be some good guys in there. And you might, like, if you're wrong, you'll probably see an Aaron Rodgers up there. You'll probably see maybe a breakout quarterback of some sort, maybe a Kenny Pickett, shaking himself into that just barely in the top 8 if he ends up having a good year. But
right, but it's hard to like.
It's hard to find. It's hard to find guys that could do it.
I would be surprised if somebody like Pickett got in there.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if Anthony Richardson, who I know has a lot of hype with his rushing, but he's still a rookie quarterback. I could, Daniel Jones, same thing. Maybe someone like Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers, one of the veteran guys that just plays all 17 and has a really good passing season. I could kind of see that.
Yeah.
Maybe Deshaun Watson to me is the one guy that I could see in that top 8. But he's QB9 right now.
Right.
So it's like There's no guys that are going late.
It's freaking lunacy.
Yeah.
Like, the quarterback position is a disaster this year. But anyway, I like that one. Let's move to the final bold prediction that I have here. And then we'll wrap up the show and get into the next one for not next week, the next day. But it is Alexander Mattison will finish under his ADP. And there's some weird guys that I like. Like, I like DeAndre Swift. I like Miles Sanders. I like those running backs, right? They're coming into Swift was a starter before, so was Miles Sanders. Alexander Madison's a backup, and Tony Pollard came in and started, and that's probably the closest comp you can get. He came in and started for Zeke and ended up being really good. He just had fresh legs, and now he's getting drafted in the second round. He kind of scares me a little bit too, just because I see Tony Pollard in the second round, and I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. But Madison now is the only running back for the Minnesota Vikings available. I believe he is dealing with an injury now, which also kind of worries me. But yeah. I think in spurts where you're not the starting running back, you can come in and start for the starting running back and spell him or replace him in certain games. And there were times I used to handcuff Madison to Dalvin Cook when I had Cook, and Cook would come in, he'd get hurt, and then I'd have 2-3 games where Madison would actually put up some decent numbers, and I'd be like, okay, this is good, just get me to Cook being back. Cook's not coming back, and Alexander Madison's going to be the only guy in that backfield, and because of that, people aren't going to be going into games. Defensive coordinators and defenses aren't going to be going into games going, okay, we have to worry about Dalvin Cook, or, not having a large sample size of film on how to stop Alexander Mattison. They're going to have that now. So because of that, I think it's going to be more challenging for Mattison to have success. I think people are hyping him up and overhyping him into a large position. Right now, his ADP puts him at, I think, RB20. So that's probably at this point why it is a bold prediction, because for a starting running back in the NFL, it's very hard for them not to outperform RB20. Right. So Madison, if he takes the Dalvin Cook workload and ends up being really good, I'll gladly be wrong on this. But I do think that people are going to overhype him, draft him way too high, and then he's going to finish under his ADP, probably around running back 25 to 30 or something stupid like that, finish with 120, 150 fantasy points and just burn everyone. And then everyone's like, well, why did I buy in on this guy? And I'm like, well, you bought in on a handcuff. So,
right.
I don't buy into the Alexander Mattison hype. If he was further down boards, I'd probably be safer on drafting him, but he's higher than Sanders. He's higher than DeAndre Swift. He's higher than J.K. Dobbins or Javonte Williams, all who I think are better football players than him. And I think that those guys should be going above him. He's going way too high. And it's just because everyone's like, oh, he's new Dalvin Cook. And it's like, if you watch Dalvin Cook play a football game, homie, like, he's very talented. And Alexander Madison is
that's
not.
for sure.
So I think he's going to underperform his ADP, and we are going to end up having a lot of people scream, he burned me.
Right. Yeah, no, I like that one. I agree. I think Madison is not a great running back, and for years he was a great handcuff, but I don't think he's going to get the full workload that Dalvin Cook did. And it's another rumor of a team that might add a veteran running back. I saw Kareem Hunt as a potential one of his potential landing spots was the Vikings.
Yeah.
So
yeah, fair enough. All right, there you go. Bold predictions for 2023 fantasy football. Lots of good stuff here. Later this week, we are going to have our top 5 value picks for the 2023 fantasy football season and a mock draft. So be sure to check that out. Thanks for listening, guys. Follow us on all the platforms, and we'll see you later.
See you.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.